Okay, I did a stream earlier where the plan was to look at every change coming up in the new 2024 Player's Handbook. Every single one, which would prove to be a challenge because I don't have access to the 2024 Player's Handbook yet. But you know who does? Like every other YouTuber. So the plan was to just look at every video they made and then figure out a list of every single change and rank it. This turned into a much bigger undertaking than I thought it would though. Because there are a lot of changes, a lot of these creators are making hour-long videos. I didn't want to do that. And while I'm going to continue on with my streams looking at all the different changes, I figured for this video, I would talk about just the 10 biggest rule changes that you can implement into your games right now. No need to buy the Player's Handbook, you can prepare for it and you can start using them. For example, the first one is the new surprise mechanic.
Surprise,
where fundamentally, surprised creatures have disadvantage on initiative rolls. That's all it does. So now if you have your players attack a bunch of goblins and the goblins have no idea they were there and are surprised, all that happens is that the goblins roll initiative with disadvantage and will most probably go after all the players. Not necessarily though, they could roll really well even at disadvantage and go first. But you know, if I was walking down a street and a van pulled up and a bunch of people in balaclavas jumped out and tried to kidnap me, yeah, they would most probably easily get me. But there's a slight chance that I roll a nat 20 or 2 nat 20s at disadvantage and manage to run away. There's always that chance. I think that's fair. So I like this change. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Feel free to give your own rankings in the comments below. The next rule change you can start implementing right now is the new exhaustion mechanic. It used to be that you got 6 levels of exhaustion and each level did something new and different to you. And at 6th level you died. Now there's still 6 levels and you still die at the end of it, but each level does the same thing, but they stack. Now every level of exhaustion, you get a penalty to your d20 checks times 2 of whatever your level of exhaustion is. So at level 1 exhaustion, you get a -2 penalty to every d20 roll you make. At level 2 exhaustion, it's now a -4. At level 3, a -6. You just times that exhaustion level by 2 and minus that from your roll. But that's not all. It also affects your speed, which makes sense. You get a penalty to your speed 5 times whatever your exhaustion roll is. So let's say your character has a speed of 30, like most characters do. At level 1, times that by 5, you get a -5 to your speed. Now your speed is 25. At level 2, it's -10. Level 3, -15, and so on and so on. Also, when you long rest, you remove 1 exhaustion point. So if you manage to get to level 5 exhaustion, which would be insane, it would take you 5 long rests to return back to normal. Overall, I think they made this way better. I do think maybe there would be like a simpler way where I wasn't timesing things by 2 and timesing things by 5 and figuring it all out. But on the plus side, timesing things by 2 and timesing things by 5 are relatively easy things to do. So I'm giving this change a 7 out of 10. Again, I like it. The next thing is a new rule replacing the old, oh, you can't cast 2 leveled spells on 1 turn with a bonus action cantrip thing that I never got right. I hated explaining it. Pretty sure I got it wrong there. Now they have simplified it. You can only use 1 spell with a slot per turn, period. If you cast any spell that would use a spell slot, you can't cast any more spells. If you cast a spell that doesn't have a spell slot, you're good to go. Go wild. Spell with a spell slot, just 1. This is a much simpler way of handling this, and I love it. And this is a 10 out of 10. It took one of the most confusing, weird rules in D&D and just simplified it. Next up, and this is a cheeky one, I just loved it so much. I got this from watching Ginny D's video on how to create a character. Apparently now in the Player's Handbook, there's a line that says, and paraphrasing, don't create an evil character. Like, don't make your character evil unless you've spoken with the DM about it first. And I think this should be a rule that we have at all our tables. Yeah, don't create a character that is going against the norm in a really big way that could disrupt the playstyle of the rest of the table, like having an evil character without talking to your DM first. It's just so nice to have that in the Player's Handbook to point to and be like, hey, yeah, officially, don't be an asshole. 8 out of 10. Next thing you can start doing right now, and let's face it, you probably have been doing for the past 5 years, potions are now a bonus action, not an action to take. Also, you can give it to an ally for them to drink as a bonus action too. 8 out of 10, this should have been here ages ago. It's like the preferred way of playing by so many people. Next up is inspiration, which no longer exists in the same way it used to. It's now called heroic inspiration, which a DM can give out to reward players. And rather giving players advantage on a roll of their choice, now they can just choose to re-roll a roll they just did for anything, for any dice. If I'm understanding it correctly, if you need to roll 3d6 to figure out the damage you do to an enemy, you can re-roll one of those d6s with Heroic Inspiration. This is pretty cool, but honestly, Inspiration was good the way it was before, I think, unless I'm missing something big. So this is just a 6 out of 10 for me. Next up is less of a rule change and more just a clarification. And that is that you can officially, voluntarily fail a saving throw. There was no clear-cut rule on this before, so it's nice to know that you can just choose to fail a saving throw if you want to, though it's incredibly niche, but trust me, I'm sure it happens where a player's like, damn, can I not fail that by choice? Well, now, officially you can. Next up, a change that you can implement right now if you are starting a brand new campaign, which I would just wait a month for the new Player's Handbook before you did that. But if you did, or you're doing a one-shot, give your players feats at level 1. This was an optional rule that I know a lot of people did. It's kind of really nice to make first level a little bit more interesting. There is a list online of a bunch of feats now that's going to be in the Player's Handbook that you can take. In fact, those feats are Alert, Crafter, Healer, Lucky, Magic Initiate, Musician, Savage Attacker, Skilled, Tavern Brawler, and Tough. I'll link this list in the description so you can go check it out yourself. It tells you what they all do. I think most of these, if not all of these, are in the game currently, but it'll be down there for you to check out. I'm a big fan of level 1 feats. Give level 1s more stuff to do. 8 out of 10 for that. Hey guys, Future Phil here. I'm wearing the same shirt, but you know I'm from the future because I'm wearing glasses. It's literally been a week. But when editing this, I wanted to push it past the 8-minute mark, and also I realized there's a few more things I wanted to talk about. Coming off the point that everyone can take a feat at level 1 now, I also wanted to mention that in the new rules, every class now gets their subclass at level 3. And genuinely to me, this is just a nice, cohesive way of making sure that the game feels more understandable when people play a lot of different classes. It makes it feel more balanced, and it stops players from getting jealous of other players when their characters have things that their characters don't. Also, while I have you here in the future, there's another change you can start doing now in preparation for these new 2024 rules, but it's mostly for people who homebrew their own monsters and NPCs, and also like to use the official stat block. Pretty much this is the new monster layout stat block. It used to be this, now it's this. They streamlined it. Now, I'm someone who likes to write out my monster stat blocks, and I use something similar to the official Wizards of the Coast stat blocks, not exactly the same, but I'm definitely going to be stealing a few things from this new stat block. Mainly this stats table, and the more streamlined HP and AC section. Though I have heard some mixed reviews from other people about these stat blocks, I actually really like it. At least I think it's much better than the old stat blocks. I also wanted to officially ask you to subscribe to this channel. Only 6% of everyone who watches me is actually subscribed. 6%. And I'm gonna need you to help me out if I'm gonna hit that 50k subscriber goal by the end of the year. And also, you know, follow me on Twitch, Patreon, on Discord, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Okay, back to the old Phil, who is actually younger Phil. And finally, there's been a terminology change that I know you're aware of. You can start using this right now, and that is that we are no longer using race, and instead we are using species. Check out my Twitch, I'm probably streaming right now, and we're going to be going through way more of these 2024 changes. Should be fun, and thank you for watching.